Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this tutorial. In the previous tutorial, we actually imported our animations and all our assets we are going to use in this game. All right, so we have everything in here set up, everything pretty neat. All right, so the next thing we're actually going to do now is to create our character movement. Okay, the logic for moving our character and then giving our character some life over here. All right now the character looks like a stick. Yeah, it's stiff. All right, we have to add some functionality to make this character come alive. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to create a simple level over here. I'm going to design a simple level over here. So I'm going to right click in my hierarchy view and I'm going to add a 3D object. So I'm going to add a plane. All right, a 3D plane. Okay, and I'm going to drag it down. Okay, I'm going to set the transform y value to 0. All right, it's going to be 0, and then let's just increase the scale. All right, so I'm going to increase the scale to 10 on the x and then 10 on the z axis. Right, so I've increased the scale to 10 on the x axis and 10 on the z axis. The next thing I'm going to do is in my hierarchy view, I'm going to create an empty game object and I'm going to reset the transform. All right, set it to the origin. Okay, and I'm going to name this env for our environment. All right, I'm going to drag the plane into the environment here, and then the next thing we are going to do is right click on our environment game object here, 3D object. Let's create some cube. All right, just to kind of like flesh out our level a little bit, let our level look a little bit neat over here. I'm going to try and scale this guy. All right, kind of want to scale this guy right now, and yeah, then I'm gonna drag him around, place a couple of more. I'm going to create a couple more over here, duplicate this guy. So Control D to actually duplicate. All right, so I'm going to duplicate, so Control D. All right, so I'll just use this our starting level. All right, this will be the our starting level. All right, for the game. So this is going to be our initial setup. All right, later on we'll see how you're gonna improve this guy much more better, and then like, all right, and see how it goes. Okay, so let's just proceed. All right, so now we have our character here. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to create an empty, let's create an empty game object quickly, another empty game object. So I'm going to also reset everything, the transform, rotation, everything, and I'm going to name this game object player. All right, so this is going to be our player game object. Now in our player game object, I'm going to drag our player character over here, which is the Erica Archer, into our player game object. All right, so I'm parenting this object here to our empty game object, which is the player. All right, so now we have the 3D model over here, the character here parented to this empty game object over here. So now looking cool. Now the next thing now is we are going to create and we are going to add a component. We are going to add the animator component. All right, so we're going to say the animator, and then the next thing is we have to create a animator controller. All right, so we have to create that in our project view down here. Okay, so I'm going to create it. I'm going to go back to my asset folder where I have the longbow. Okay, let's just enter into our longbow folder here, right click, and then we're going to create another folder here. So within this folder, I'm going to name this folder our animator. All right, now within this animator folder, we are going to create an animator controller. All right, so this one over here, animator controller, and I'm going to name the animator controller our player. All right, player anim. All right, for the player animator controller. So this is for the player. All right, so back in our scene view, let's go to our hierarchy view and click on our player game object here. We're going to drag the player animator controller to the controller part of our animator component. All right, so we have this drag, and if you drop this over here, the next thing is to set the avatar for this animator controller. So I'm going to select this circle guy here, this circle button, this circular button here, and then we're going to select the Erica Archer avatar. If you remember, in the previous tutorial we actually set all the animations to use this avatar, if you remember. So we actually setting the animator controller to use this avatar, which is also from this character. All right, so with that said and done, let me just save. We have our setup complete. The next thing is we go to window, and we are going to open we go to animation down here, and we're going to open the animator window. So now the animator window is opened. All right, so this is where we are actually going to create all our logic for all animations, all the transitions in our game. Okay, so let's say if the character is in a walk phase, like the user is pressing on maybe the up arrow key, it means the character has to walk forward. So once the user is pressing the up arrow, we have to trigger that animation. So within this area, we're actually going to set up all animation transitions. All right, and these animation transitions are going to be based on the user input. Okay, so now we are going to look into our project view down here. We have a lot of animations here, so I'm going to go through some of the animations. So and we are going to actually use some of the animations for our game. So over here we have an idle animation. All right, so let me actually show this as a list view. So I'll click on this circular knob here and then drag. All right, drag to show a list view. So now I'm in this standing idle animation. All right, so right here I'm going to select this animation, and in my inspector view with the animation tab here selected, we're going to scroll through, and then I want to change the name of this animation to idle. So you could see it was mixamo.com. we have to do some changes there, and then we will set this animation to loop time, loop pose, and so what it means is this animation is going to loop, is going to run over and over again. Okay, it's going to run continuously. All right, it's a looping animation. All right, so it's going to like run every frame. Okay, so the next thing is the rotation, the root transform rotation of our character. So we are actually going to set it to original, and then bake into pose, and then the root transform position Y. All right, set it, bake it into pose, and then based on the character's feet. All right, so this actually makes the character's feet. Okay, the animation reference the character's feet, so the character's feet is on the ground. Okay, so it actually positions the character's feet on the ground while the animation is playing. All right, because we want the character to be standing on the ground. All right, so we are going to apply these changes. Now we have our changes applied. So we are also going to look for the walk animations. All right, so we just finished with the idle animation right over here, where we set all these parameters here. So we are going to go to our walk. Okay, so we have walk back, walk forward, walk left, walk right. All right, so let's start with the first one, which is walk back. So when you click, you can see the character is actually doing a walk back animation. So she's actually walking back. So with this animation, we are just going to rename it. We're going to say walk back here, and then we are going to set it to loop time, loop pose, bake into pose based of original, and then bake into pose based upon the feet. So the character's feet is on the ground as she walks. All right, it plays on the ground exactly as we want it to be. So you could see, all right, over here, character's feet and how she's moving. All right, so we are going to apply. You're going to go to the next one, which is walk forward. I'm going to set this to walk forward. I'm going to rename it, and then I'm going to set loop time, loop pose, bake into pose, original, retransform Y feet, and you can see the walk forward animation. I'm going to apply that. The walk left, the same thing. I got to rename this guy, so do walk left, and loop time, loop pose based on original, bake into pose, retransform Y on the feet. All right, so apply. So that's walk left, and the final one is walk right. So we have walk right. All right, loop time, loop pose, original, and then feet. All right, so apply. Now we're done with that. So the next thing is our running animation. So run back. You could see she does a run back animation where she keeps running backwards. So it's going to be a looping animation. We are going to change the name to run back. Hit enter. Retransform, rotation, original, retransform, position Y, feet, and then apply. The next one is to run forward. All right, we're going to set run forward here, and then loop time, loop pose, original, and retransform Y, feet. So apply the changes, and then the next one will be for run left. Here we go. Loop time, loop pose, original, retransform Y, feet, apply, and then the last one, run right. So run right, yada yada. So all this will map up to the forward, back, left, right key input. All right, the arrow keys and then the WASD keys on our keyboard. So done with that, apply the same things, original, retransform Y, feet. All right, so we're done with the animations we're actually going to use. So basically now next thing is to actually get our animations here. So in our animator view here, we are going to right click, and then we are going to say create state, and we'll say new blend tree from new blend tree. Now within this blend tree, so we are going to select this blend tree we just created, and we are going to rename this blend tree to walk. Right, this is going to handle everything for walking. Okay, for these characters walk animations. All right, so anything with walking. All right, then we are going to right click, create state, another blend tree, and this blend tree, you're going to select this guy, click this blend tree right here in the inspector. We are going to set this to run. All right, with this done, right here where we have layers, we are going to go to parameters. So these parameters are actually what is going to actually control our animation. So the first parameter we're going to add is, we are going to add a float parameter. We are going to set this to forward. So forward has to do with the character moving forward, and then I think let's delete this blend guy from here. So select this guy and then hit delete. So we don't want the blend. Okay, so forward, and then we are going to create another one, float, and we are going to call this strafe or So our forward movement is what's going to handle our character moving forward and moving backwards. So this forward parameter we are seeing over here is a float, so it's taking a floating point value. Now this floating point value will vary between -1, -1, and 1. So when the value is -1, it means the character is moving backwards. When the value is 1, it means the character is moving forward. The same goes for the strafe. It's going to go from -1 to 1. So when it's -1, the character is moving left. When it's 1, the character is moving to the right. So we play the corresponding animation corresponding to each of these inputs, all right, we have over here. The next thing is we are going to actually create another parameter, and it's going to be a bool. Now this bool is going to be sprint. Now when this guy is checked, it means the character is actually sprinting, so this will be set to true. When it's not checked, the character will not be sprinting. So that will help us transition from walk to run. All right, so now we are going to enter into our walk animation. So double click here. Now we are in our blend tree, so select this blend tree here, click this guy here, and then right here in the inspector, we don't want the blend type to be 1D. all right, let's select a 2D simple directional blend tree. All right, we are going to use a simple directional blend tree. All right, now the first thing we are going to do is select here we are going to set our left and right movement to strafe, and this is going to handle like our forward and back movement, so that will be set to forward. Now down here we have a list of motion fields we can enter. So these motion fields actually take animations. Now it's going to play the animations based on the forward and strafe values. So click on this plus icon here, and then click on add motion field. So click add another. So we are adding 5 motion fields. All right, so click to have like 5. all right, so the first thing is we are going to look for the idle motion. So the first one we had was the standing idle, you remember, all right, and we renamed it to idle. All right, so we're going to drag this guy and drop him here. Now within idle, we want the x value to be 0 and the y value to 0. So now the x value corresponds to the strafe, so that will move from -1 to 1, and then the forward value corresponds to the y. all right, so the character's position y, position x. all right, so the next thing is we are going to take the walk forward. So let's look for walk forward, and then we're going to drag this guy, drop this guy here. Now we want the character to move forward when the forward value is 1, so you set this guy to 1. The next one we are looking for is walk back, so we drop walk back here. We are going to set the x value to be 0, and the character will walk back when the y value is -1, when our forward value is -1. The next thing is we are going to go to walk left. all right, drag that one here as a motion field. Now we're going to set the forward value to 0, and then the strafe value, the left right value, is to be -1. So when the user hits -1, we actually want to walk left. Now the final one we're going to deal with is walk right. So we drag walk right here. We're going to set this value to 0 on the y, and then 1 on the x. So when the user is pressing on the right key, we want to move to the right. all right, so now you could see we have a nice blend tree here, and it has handled all the transitions for us. Now you can see automatically the idle is highlighted with a blue line over here, which means the character is actually in an idle state, because we said when the strafe and then the forward values are all set to 0, we want the character to be in idle. So you could see it over here. So now if I play with these values, you could see it's changing or the actual animation that should be played. So when I drag forward, you could see when I move to +1 over here, we are in the walk right animation. when I move backwards -1, we transition to walk left. All right, so basically this handles all those stuff for us. So you could actually also preview how the animation will actually look like, okay, over here. So if I press play, she's in an idle state. Now when I move to the right, she walks right. When I move to the left, she's walking left. You could see. So that's done for us. All right, and then you could also drag this red guy here over here. This red can actually help you preview. So we could also mix like walk forward and then walk right when we press the 2 keys, so in between here. All right, so imagine, yeah, when the user is pressing on maybe forward and then right, so she enters into like walking diagonally, like towards this direction. All right, so we could actually check how this guy works, this guy looks, and this will work on a gamepad. All right, on a gamepad also. So if you have a controller, so an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller, hook it up to your PC. All right, if you connect that controller to your PC, you could actually try it with your thumbsticks. All right, your analog sticks, and you would actually see the character transition to all these animation states. All right, so we're done with the walk cycle. The next is to do the same for the run. So we select our blend tree like before, and then 2D simple directional. We're going to add 5 motion fields. So 5 motion fields, yada yada. I think the last one. So this is 1 2 3 4 5. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is transition to a strafe here, and the next one is going to be a forward. All right, so the first thing is we're going to look for our idle animation again. So our idle is going to be set to 0 0 0, and then the next one is run forward. So run forward here, and then we are going to set the forward value to be 1. Okay, then run backward. So run back, and then we are going to set the left and right value to 0, and then the forward value to -1. All right, which means the user is running backwards. The character is actually running backwards. The user is pressing on the back key. Now run left, we drop this guy here, set the forward value to 0, and then -1 on the strafe value, and then run right. Okay, drag this guy here, set the forward value to 0, and then left and right value, which is the strafe value, the X value to 1. We're done, and you could see this is also done for us. We could preview what will happen. So we actually have to play our animation first and then preview how the animation looks like. All right, we're done. Everything looks good, beautiful, nice setup. So we go back here by clicking on the base layer, and we are back here. Now the next thing is to actually do a transition from our walk to our run animation. So we right click on our walk animation and then select make transition, then click on the run animation. So we've made a transition from walk to run. Now select this transition here, and now we are going to disable exit time. All right, so disabling exit time means the animation should just transition when this value has been set to true. So the value that is going to be set to true is going to be based on a condition. So this condition here, we are going to click on this plus icon, and we're going to base our transition on a condition. Now the condition is going to be if the sprint value is true. So now we are actually going to bind the sprint value to the shift key in our code. All right, so once we write our code, we are going to bind the sprint value to the shift key in our code. So when the user is pressing the shift key, it means we want to actually enter into a sprinting animation. Now from here, we are going to make another transition from run to walk, and we are going to select this guy here. We don't want to exit, we don't want exit time, so we want to transition straight away to this animation once this condition is met without exit time. So we are not going to wait for the run animation to complete its cycle. All right, we are not going to wait for it to get completed before we transition. We are just going to go out of the run animation straight into the walk animation. So when the sprint value is false, so when the user isn't sprinting, all right, so the user isn't pressing the shift key. So now we have our walk and run setup. So now we can actually start writing code to do our character movement and get our character moving on screen. All right, so I think I'll pause out of this now, and then we'll resume in the next tutorial, because this video is getting too long. I really want the videos to be short and precise, so I'll catch you in the next video where we start writing the script and then getting things done. So see you in the next one.